Good morning. I am James Dickey, Chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. It is my pleasure today to be here in Sutherland Springs and to introduce to you all Pastor Frank Pomeroy, the Republican nominee for Senate District 21. Prior to answering the call to pastor in 2002, U.S. Navy veteran Frank Pomeroy enjoyed a career in the motor controls industry. He since earned a degree in biological anthropology, which he uses to present God's word through a theological worldview with those in academic circles who would not debate on a theological level. He is a longtime senior pastor at First Baptist Church, Sutherland Springs, ministering to the church and community through and after the tragedy in November 2017 that claimed the lives of 26, including his 14-year-old daughter, and many leaders of the church. Following the tragedy at his own church, as well as after the more recent shootings in El Paso and Dayton, he saw Democrat leaders immediately politicize the people and victims of these tragedies, as opposed to tending to their healing needs first. He, like many conservatives, has also seen how the country has digressed so far due to the lack of civility, integrity, and godliness in our political realm, which has led him to enter the race for Texas Senate to serve District 21. To take a stand, to help protect Texas against the divisive force of the Democrat Party blue wave that has swept over too much of the country. Pastor Frank is 100% unapologetically pro-life and is a strong advocate of our right to self-defense and the Second Amendment. His immediate priorities include strengthening state support in adoption programs, term limits, and being a champion for school choice. He believes leaders should be held accountable to supporting our law enforcement and border patrol. Religious liberty, election integrity, and personal responsibility are tenets of his platform, and he believes in small government held accountable by we the people. Pastor Frank and his wife of 34 years, Sherry, have raised 4 biological children and 2 adopted children, and have 6 grandchildren who are the light of their lives. When not at the church, Frank enjoys spending time with his family, serving his community, going camping, doing anything outdoors, and riding his motorcycle. Pastor Pomeroy, it is a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Please, let's start by you telling folks a little bit about yourself and about what inspires you to serve.
Well, as you just shared just a little bit ago, the idea that came to me as I was watching what was going on, remember this started pre-COVID, pre the situations that we find ourselves in right now. But what I really wanted to put forth was we have what has made Texas great in my eyes is that personal responsibility and individual liberty. We have the capability of growing and being and becoming. And that's what small government allowing us the wherewithal to do such. And what I've witnessed across this country and ebbing into Texas as well, especially in SD 21, is more and more government and less rights of the people. So I wanted to get involved and try to get out there to, one, stop that process of that blue wave trying to reach into Texas, but also, two, to help people recognize their God-given talents and rights and remind them of what made Texas great and how we can get back together, locking arms as people and speaking one to another and growing the state again to be the leader of the rest of the country as it should be.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things I'm proud of is that both leading up to this coronavirus pandemic, the biggest pandemic in a century that nobody saw coming, it was conservative principles that had made the country successful, that was setting our economy on fire. And right now it is conservative principles that are helping us come out of dealing with that. And personal responsibility is absolutely a huge part of that. So what kind of background do you have in advocacy or in politics?
Well, one of the things that I would, again, point out is kind of reverting back to the last question just a little bit as well. We have got to be a people that Texas has always been in a leadership position to me, and I tend to say we are the adult in the room. We need to remind people of getting back involved and taking responsibility, doing what we're supposed to do. I've been blessed by being the senior pastor for many years. I've worked with many families, not off sound bites, not off little news clips or something like that, but in real world situations, seeking out true direction, seeking out how can we better ourselves, how can we heal through this. And that was prior to the incident in 2017. But even after the incident in 2017, really all that training that God had given me, if you will, throughout my life, really was put into play as we had to help people navigate an incredibly difficult situation, a difficult turmoil in their life at the time, including my own family and children getting through that. So I think that many of the things that I bring to the table is a real life relationship, a real life correspondence with people on a real life level, and not from an elitist view or some type of background where I just where I need to tell you how to live your life. No, I'm going to come in and how can I help you use the tools and the gifts that God's given you to better yourself and make it through this situation.
That is fantastic. So the events of the last few months, we alluded to this a moment ago with COVID and now rioting and anarchy, they've really taken a great toll on families across our state and frankly the entire country. Is there a way to quell the calamity, and how would you encourage your fellow Republicans directly as well as in their engagement with those who may not have the same beliefs and values?
Well, one of the problems I think I see in politics all over the place right now, whether it be in Texas and national elections as well on a federal level, I think I see a lot of politicians today they might have been great in the beginning and everything, their heart was there, but unfortunately their focus has moved more to how can I get reelected? I'm so good for the people, I need to continue to be reelected. And focus tends to, and I don't blame them, just saying it's a trap that some people fall into, and they do what they can to get reelected, which then means I want to start pandering to whatever I feel as though is the soundbite that's going to help me through. Or maybe I'm allowing media and propaganda machines to inform me rather than actually getting informed. So when I think about what can we as people do and as fellow Republicans do, we need to start critically thinking again. Instead of allowing the media, whatever station you want to input here, rather than allowing the media to direct our thinking with 2-minute sound bites, we need to start really looking into the situations at hand, get out of that echo chamber that tends to foster more and more bad thinking, think things through and step out and lead. Let's have those conversations. Again, we need to be able to get back to a table and speak about these directives. You may have a little different opinion than mine. I may have a little different opinion than you. You may be partially right. I may be partially right. And we'll find out in the middle is where we really need to be. But we're not going to have those conversations if we stay within these echo chambers and continue to try to be. So we've acquiesced to PC so much that we think, well, we can't speak about politics. We can't speak about religion. We can't speak about these things. We have no communications. One of the things I share with people, whether it be in a family setting, with a marital setting, whatever it may be, if there is no communication, you're not going to move forward. You have to truly communicate. You have to truly think through the situation at hand and think through what is it that I want the outcome to be on the other side, which is truth. We got to stand up for truth. And speaking and standing for truth is really the best way we can bring our political system, and not just in Texas. Texas, I think, has always been very noteworthy as being that, again, the adult in the room, the one who wants to speak wisdom and truth. But if we would just take that and make sure we grasp it here and then display that for the rest of the nation, which I think we're seeing a lot of it being displayed for us in current events right now, when you look at the governorships of what states are having the largest issues, we need to get back to speaking truth rather than politically correct sound bites. That's the best way to get through this situation, I think.
Well, and as always, actions speak louder than just words. And you're so right. Sound bites are so much less convincing and less important and less powerful than really understanding. And that's why your vocation is as a pastor, right? There are a lot of people who quote some scripture and the word my heart that I may not sin against God, right? But look, learning scripture is a good thing, but you need to be sure you've actually studied the whole Bible and understand the context so you can really display God's love. Same goes for political stuff. For you to really advance great change, you got to get much deeper than sound bites. One of the things we've focused on at the party, and you're a great example of it, is that living out, right, with the word actions speak louder than words, living out our principles and living out our policy, and touching people locally and touching people much deeper than a soundbite is how we can make change. So that's why our field staff is already back out knocking on doors, because those one-on-one conversations are so much more powerful. That's why even during coronavirus, it was live people on the phone, because that really made it. But one of the big force multipliers we found at the party is new candidates coming to the party. And that's why we did our candidate recruiting task force. That's why we pushed really hard to make sure we have voter data and block walking systems, phone banking systems available to support new candidates like yourself who have stepped up. So I just personally want to say thank you for doing it, because every new candidate, especially when you're challenging an incumbent Democrat, you are bringing new friends and neighbors and contacts, and you are spreading our message in a neighborhood, in a community, in a district that hasn't necessarily heard it before. And people don't care what we know or what we stand for until they know we care. And a candidate in the district is the most powerful way to show that. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. And I truly appreciate that. When my opponent is a 33-year incumbent that is working real well with her networking and things of that nature. And I agree with you. You brought up the scriptures. James says, I'll show you my faith by my works. Right? We got to get beyond just networking of what to say and actually put actions to what we say. Because semantics, you can take your words and make them mean all kinds of, make one sentence mean 5 things to 5 different groups of people. Your actions prove who and what you really are. And that's what I've been trying to point out on the campaign trail is, let's get past the words and let's look at actions. And that's where we need to be as a party throughout the United States, but especially here in Texas.
Absolutely, especially in Texas. So one of the things that the public struggles with and that we struggle with in interacting with the public is lack of interest in the election process and low voter registration and conservatives of faith. There's a lot of evidence that half of church attendees are not registered to vote at all, and of the half that are, only half of them turn out to vote. And so what do you think contributes to that lack of interest and turnout, and how would you encourage folks to make a difference and make sure their voices are heard and their values represented in their government?
Well, I think there's a twofold answer to that, Chairman Dickey, and that is one of which we live in a time where over the last several years, I think that people feel as though their vote less and less matters because we're hearing more and more rhetoric and less action. And therefore, when they go out and they vote, they think there's going to come forth change, and there's all these things that's presented that's going to happen, but it gets mulled down in echo chambers rather than actual action taking place, or people will say all the right things, go to office and not actually perform on the actions that they said they were going to do. People just they feel as though the entire system's disingenuous and step away from it. We need to get back into a position to let people know that, one, we're going to say what we say and mean what we mean. Our yays will be yays and our nays will be nays. And people will get encouraged and have that morale brought back to them by saying, okay, we put someone in office who really is going to stand on what they say they're going to stand on. And you kind of touched on something when you mentioned about the churches and conservative Christian folks and only being half there. And I want to put the blame squarely on my discipline. I think there are a lot of pastors out there that have forgotten what it means to have the backbone to stand up and present the gospel, present morality, present integrity, and then get involved to stand upon those. Again, it's one thing to speak it from the pulpit, but you have to get out there and show that you have to lead by example. And we have gotten into a position, and I've since running for office, I've been utterly amazed. Julie, my campaign manager, and I, we've talked about this, how many churches have told me, oh, we don't speak about anything political, or we don't talk about social issues. There's too many. I actually had a pastor just 2 weeks ago tell me there's too many good things in the Bible to speak about rather than to touch on the social hot button issues. How incredibly wrong and doing a disservice to our constituents and to that demographic of people to not present to them what the scriptures say. Because if you look in the Bible, the men of faith were the ones that got promoted into men of the political persuasions as well. Whether it be David or whomever in the scriptures, I can name off a list. This ideology that church, I understand we don't want state in the church, but you can't take church out of the heart of a man, and the man is the one sitting in office. And that position, that human being, male or female, whoever is in that position, needs to allow his morality, his integrity, whatever his foundation is, even if it's a humanistic ideology that he stands on, he's going to let that show. So why not get out there and educate the people to vote for those who are like-minded on family values, conservative ideals, the things that made this country from the very beginning great, the things that's kept Texas where it is and being the leader within this great country. We need to, as a church, as a people group, as a pastoral body, get back to understanding that we are to call to share what truth is. And truth is what's going to set this state above all the others. And I think once people see that someone is willing to go and stand on a solid foundation rather than shifting sands of whatever public opinion poll says, that's what will grow the voters' identity more into, okay, I can believe in this anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, the folks who try to claim that separation of church and state means that the church should stay out of politics. They're reading it exactly backwards. Anyone who knows anything about our founding knows that. But back then, pastors all wore black robes. In multiple denominations, they wore black robes, and there were frequently black robe regiments that were literally pastors advocating for revolution, pastors advocating for liberty and freedom, and for us to live as God intended with our God-given rights. And there are great stories of pastors pulling off their robes and grabbing their rifles and leading their men into battle. It's fighting in the square is not something to be shied away from.
You know, the shot that was heard around the world was in the front field of a Lutheran church.
That's right.
You know,
well, and one if by land and two if by sea was hung in the whatever you call it, the steeple area of the Old North Church in Boston. Yeah.
One of the greatest issues we face in America today is the removing of that moral integrity. I'm not talking about a denominational ideal here. I'm saying the moral integrity of what built this country. And those who have a guideline towards that moral integrity should be speaking out the loudest, not acquiescing to political correctness. They should be speaking out that, hey, you know, we're sitting in a position right now, Chairman Dickey. Again, let's go back to that first shot heard around the shot that was heard around the world. It was an accidental shot fired in stress, but it started a war. We're sitting in a position right now that if men of character do not stand up and actually lead, when I say men, I mean male or female, when people of character will not stand up and lead, well, you're looking at a situation that may lead to something and digress to something you really don't want to take a hold of.
Well, and again, that's what I'm so glad about. Just like yourself, right this minute across Texas, we have 2,118 races where men and women of integrity have stepped up. And yes, we have the highest number of women running for Congress as Republicans we've ever had. Big increase in that, and I love that. And yes, we have to lead by example. Absolutely. And I'm so glad to see that. Well, with national attention on recent instances of gun violence and your personal experiences, what do you want the community to know about your beliefs on any changes to our current gun laws?
Where I stand here, and again, I'm going to run right to current events and look at the events that's transpiring around us and lack of leadership in many areas. The whole purpose of the Second Amendment that was given to us was to be able to defend ourselves, both from foreign and domestic terrorism, and mainly primarily from our government if the government chooses to come in and try to take over and become that totalitarian system that, such as in Seattle, now with their little grouping. We have to continue to have the ability to defend ourselves. Regardless of what may transpire around us, that's a God-given right to be able to defend myself and my family and my property. I don't look to any, at this point, now again, I will come to the table, we'll discuss whatever may be brought to the table, but what I see right now, we have Bloomberg that said $8 million he's going to spend in Texas through gun-free, Guns of America to try to pull the Second Amendment rights away from all the Texans. And I'm thinking, you have more money than sense at this point, because look at what's going on around you. Of all times, current events is making my point for me. We need to be able to defend ourselves. So I do not see any laws on the table right now being discussed that I would support. I don't see anything right now that in the coming future, short term, that I have seen that I feel as though helps better protect ourselves. Taking our firearms and putting more restrictions on our firearms, all you're doing is taking law-abiding citizens and putting them at the mercy of those, such as that going on in Seattle right now, that are not law-abiding, and across the country. I don't want to pick on just them. But we see it all across the country. Those who can defend themselves and protect themselves are the ones that's going to make it through the other side.
Boy, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've seen black shop owners need to use their weapons to defend themselves against rioting, and that is not the first case. Condoleezza Rice told the heartbreaking story of her father and his friends doing a neighborhood watch to fight back against the oppression of the Democrats and when she was growing up. And had it not been for their right to defend themselves with arms, they would have been in big trouble. I will differ with you a little bit on one thing. At the party, we are fighting strongly for constitutional carry, to not require a license to carry open or concealed. I didn't think you did. I thought you were on that. That is one law change we'd like to see in Texas. And personally, I like the element of surprise, so I'd rather carry concealed, but as current events have shown, the more restrictions you have, the more laws you have, the more negative interactions you have a chance for between the police and the citizenry. And all of those negative reactions are turning into having really serious negative consequences. And so the more we as small government conservatives can restrict government and reduce those laws and reduce those regulations, better off we'll be. If for no other reason, that's a good reason to have constitutional carry in Texas.
You're absolutely right. I just read about Bloomberg's plea this morning,
right.
So that everything in that article is resonating in my head as far as the things he's trying to get enacted. Yes, constitutional carry obviously is a law that we do need to change. And I'm on record with.
I know you are. I know you are, which is actually one of the reasons why I brought it up. And thank you for doing that. You were really strong on that. Obviously, that's a key thing. So your district includes communities in South Texas that historically have been considered to have and have had a large representation of Latino and other minority families, and historically Democrat voters, which frankly, we only won the Texas House in 2003. So historically, all of Texas was Democrat voters, but the Valley and your district has stayed that way for a while. What would you say to those voters that believe the Democrat Party better represents their culture and values?
Well, I think there's a little bit of discrepancy with your question. You said that they believe that the Democratic Party illustrates their values. One thing I kind of already knew this, however, since running for office since last September, the thing that I have really learned, spending a lot of time down in Webb County, Zapata County, Starr County, those southern counties, these folks, we have it in our mind so much like a football game. It's us against them, the Republicans against the Democrats. When in reality, most of these people have strong family values. They just want to get up in the morning, feed the kids, take them to school, go to work, come home, eat dinner. And they are still, they have that strong bond, but they don't have time to really research all the different things that's happening in the two parties. And when you And what I try to tell people today, just because they say they're Democrat does not mean that they are what you have in your mind of what a Democrat is, because many times they're just going along with it culturally has been passed down to them. Grandpa was a Democrat, grandma was a Democrat, mom was a Democrat, therefore I'm going to be a Democrat, not realizing that the Democratic Party has left those family ideals behind, that the Democratic Party has left their godliness behind. Because most of those that you are speaking of, uh, many denominations, but primarily Catholicism is the primary focus. If they knew where the Democratic Party actually sat, voting God out of the platform, doing these different things with what they say that if you're pro-life, you have no place in this party.
Right.
You know, if they things like that, if they actually were educated and told that I understand that this is a cultural ideal to you, that this has been passed down, it's not the party of JFK. It's not the party that your grandparents knew. This is a new party that has chosen to turn incredibly left and will use words that makes it sound like that. Let's say pro-life. Seems to be very habitual now. Oh, I'm pro-life, but I don't want to take that choice away from anybody else. Well, then you're not pro-life if you're going to say something of that nature. And so they'll word things to confuse people along the board. And so what I've been trying to do, Chairman Dickey, is to go down, meet anyone I can, wherever I can, whether it be a festival, whether it be a stock show, whatever it was prior to COVID, just letting people know that where are you on your family values? Get them to talk about their family values, what they hold dear to them, and then show them party lines, show them platforms, and they will automatically see, wow, okay, there's a problem here. And it's still going to take some time to overcome that cultural identity that they've been passed down, but you at least get that thinking, you get that critical thinking going on. You get them to start asking questions, because most of them just don't know. They get up, go to work, come home, come November, oh, granddaddy was a Democrat, therefore I'll vote Democrat. I think it's great that we don't have the straight party punch anymore, because now they have to think. And I'm hoping when they go to punch those names, oh, I remember who this person was, and what they actually stand for. So it's just a matter of acknowledging that they are people, just like you and I. Most of them are good, hardworking family people like you and I. And we just need to educate them as to where their party has gone and lift them in the backdrop. And then they will see, okay, well, yeah, it might have been great for grandma, but it's not where we are today.
Well, and as a party of personal responsibility, we understand and believe that it's not on average everyday Texans to figure out that we better represent them. It's on us to show that we care and that we want their support and that we deserve their support because we actually match up better with them.
Absolutely. And if we get back to what we were speaking of earlier about actions, it takes more than speaking. Now, some of the comments I hear when I'm down on the border is people come down and say things, but then y'all disappear back north of Interstate 10. And we have to break that ideology.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, one of your priorities is elections integrity. We call it voter defense because every stolen vote steals the impact of a legitimate voter's vote. As we have been for a century, the Democrats have been fighting for voter suppression and disenfranchisement, and we have been fighting for voter defense. So you've been advocating for stricter penalties for unlawful voter registration and vote harvesting. What made this such a priority to you, and how can we make improvements to ensure fairness and honesty in our elections?
Well, I will say again, prior to running, I had an idea as to what has happened and what can happen. And I've always been a proponent that if we need our ID for everything else, I'd have to show my ID just to get a hunting license. If I have to have my ID for everything else, why not for the most important luxury we have in this country? It is a right and it's a luxury that's been bestowed upon us. And we need to exercise that right. But we need to do so lawfully. Men and women fought and died so that we can have the freedom to vote. And that's why, let's take the mail-in ballot idea that they have right now. There are men and women that never came back home so that I can go and vote. I think it's okay to have to get in my car and go a few miles because we have voter stations even in the most spread out of counties. they're still within a few miles of wherever you're living. To say that it's inconvenient, well, it's really inconvenient for those men and women that didn't come back, or those families that were left to raise a family because their loved one never came back to fight for the freedoms we have. So I take voting in our voter registration very seriously, because I know what it costs to give us these freedoms. That being said, we need to do everything we can to not compromise that situation, that system. We need to do everything we can to make it a wholesome system so that people feel comfortable that their vote counts. It's not going to be superseded by a box of votes just showing up somewhere. And one of the other things I would say is, since running for office, I have been utterly amazed. Now, I'm just going to say their stories, so I'm not going to say hey, I'm doing this or that, but all the stories of what transpires down on the border and in those border counties, and talking to the Attorney General, some of the things he's got going on right now down in some of those border counties. I'm utterly amazed that in some ways, I think we are still stuck in the 20th century down there. And we need to do more about maybe the state coming together to have a better system of getting poll watchers and things, because there's a lot of anomalies down there that show up rather prevalently, and yet we're not really addressing them. And I know it's a manpower issue. I know there's things that need to be done, but I would hope that that's one of the things I would like to make a change, is to get in and start focusing on how can we make our election system, our election process more reliable, have more integrity, and leaning the liberal way of loosening up all the laws is not the way to go. We need to secure those ballots and let people see that it's important. That it's important not for you to go sell your vote for $5 or an HEB card or something like that. You need to go vote for your family, or your family's going to come under this big government and lose all the freedoms that they have.
Absolutely. And that's, as a former county chair, that is a challenge for the county chairs to do that. We have a voter defense initiative task force right now going at the state level. And you are absolutely right. It's poll watchers and early voting ballot board members and alternate judges. And a lot of that does require time to recruit and get volunteers to be involved. But we are seeing more and more people recognize the need and step up. And we've actually just brought on a consultant to focus even more on the voter defense initiative that we just done.
Well, I think the election integrity program really will help. It has been helping already. We just need to make sure to focus. Even when I was an election judge right here in my precinct, right here in Wilson County, in my little precinct, there were several opportunities, or several different times people tried to play the system, and we'd catch them. They went to this station or this station and tried to vote multiple times. And that's right here. So if in my own little sphere of influence I can see it, what is it on a statewide level?
Absolutely. It does add up, and it is an important thing that we need to deal with, for sure. So your Democrat opponent has been in office, as you said earlier, for an incredibly long time, 33 years. What, clearly, I think it is time for a change. What specifically positive change can families expect to see in their daily lives if you are elected to replace her in the Senate?
Well, there's quite a few things I would say there. I was just speaking this past Sunday, actually, from the pulpit. We kind of shared this a moment ago. In times such as we're stating right now, with the current events that's going on around us, whether it be the pandemic, whether it be the looting and the rioting, with the racial divide, where people are trying to drive a wedge into our society, we're allowing the 2 or 3 or 5% of populace to actually drive the propaganda machines and really causing division in families and friendships and in society as a whole. I think that what we need to do is not hide and sit in the background, not try to acquiesce to whatever nice little soundbite to make everybody happy on both sides. We need firm, strong leadership. We need to get back to governing. You know, yes, obviously the constituents are our importance, and in so doing, come back to being that person that will say the things that are hard when they need to be said, and do what needs to be done to follow through. So I'd like to say that I would bring to the table a sense of of being, of understanding that to one who has been called to that position, it's not a position that I've been just given. It is a position that requires courage. It is a position that requires me standing up and stepping out and doing what's best for my constituents and not what's best for the media or an elite political system here or there or wherever. It's not about getting my marching orders from a person. It's about getting my marching orders from a nation of morality and integrity and what's best for our constituents. And that includes many things. One of the things that, as I said a while ago, or you said it actually in my intro, I'm unapologetically pro-life. I believe that the 14th Amendment actually guarantees that as well. There are many avenues many arguments I can present why life matters. And as we continue to denigrate that, when we continue to teach our children that life doesn't matter, well, then what's going to happen? If life doesn't matter on this end, and if we start moving towards the life doesn't matter on this end, then why does life matter in between? And we get this system that we're falling into today, where they're being indoctrinated. It's all about me. It's all about what's best for me. We need to get back to, it's not about my reelection. It's about what I can do best for the people. What's best to help them live out their God-given rights of being able to raise their family, better their children, and do something that, that again with current events, we think of small business. What happened to the small businesses that just happened? I know personally quite a few businesses that are not going to be able to reopen. I know of many areas where I tend to think that leadership could have done things a little differently rather than allowing big corporations and small businesses, big corporations stay open and small businesses to close. We just need to get in there and not follow what this person says or that person says, but let's come together, discuss this, and let what's best for my constituents. When my opponent has been there a long time, and we agree on a few things. I don't want to take anything away from her. She is, we agree on some things. And I think early in her career, we would have agreed on more things. But as this blue wave has swept across the nation, so has those votes by those who follow their party line in Washington, even here in Texas. And it takes more than just saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that so that, that we can be bipartisan. Well, bipartisan deals are great if you can actually even bring them to the table. Words are just words. But secondly, is that what's really best for your constituents? We need to get out there and what's best for everyone going on here? What's best for our youth? It's a big thing to say, well, our youth have to go to college. Why not bring it back to let them know that we need tradesmen as well? Not everyone needs to go to college. And right now, with the education system, the indoctrination that's transpiring in many of those education systems, I'd rather you go into a trade and learn some hands-on things. So I guess what I'm trying to say, you asked me what time it is, I tell you how to build a watch. But really what we need to do is get back to empowering the people to feel as though that, hey, I matter. I have some importance here. My decisions are really going to make a difference here. This fly is evil. Yes. So we need to just get back to being there for the people rather than for myself and the government. We need to let the people know you matter, you're important. It doesn't matter what your income level is. It doesn't matter what your educational level is. It doesn't matter what trade you are, whether your education is there or here. You matter. Your life matters. Therefore, your opinion matters. So let's take all this in and figure out how can we do what's best for everyone as a whole to grow. And again, I am a firm believer in personal responsibility. Take accountability for your actions, which means takes about accountability for the consequences and the reactions as well. But stand upon what you believe to be right and wrong. And then that's how you will grow. And then when a person looks at you, they may disagree with you, but they'll still say, I know that he's a person of character. She's a person of character, that they are truly meaning and saying what they believe. And then that's how you help grow society. You don't keep driving these wedges in society. You need to figure out how to get out there and put something that both sides of the table agree on, a healthy family and a growing family and a strong small business to grow the economy. And that's Texas, that's why we're fifth in everywhere because of how we were able to do that. I hope that we'll bounce right back with the president's ideas, bringing things back together and staying focused on not on politics, but on what's best for the country. I hope that will resonate down here in Texas as well.
I think so. And I think as we've seen unrest and turmoil, it's all in Democrat-led cities and Democrat-led states. And I hope independent voters are paying attention to that. Do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to let people know about?
Well, again, we're coming out of COVID.
Right.
It was kind of exciting that I went from nothing to all of a sudden here were all these conventions. You know, I had 3 different counties this past weekend. Things are happening again. We're getting out there. I know 4th of July, we're going to have in Seguin, Texas, in Guadalupe County, we're going to be in that parade there and have some stuff set up around there. So, but after that, we're still looking for things to open. You were just mentioning how you can look at the bluer areas and the conditions they're in. My southern counties are really blue and still under a lot of reasoning as to why they can't get out and gather. And so we're waiting on them to open up and really allow us to come in and start gathering together again and get out there and get knocking on those doors and start planning things in the future. But right now, 4th of July is coming up, which is an exciting one to get back out there and praise the Lord for it. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, I've got a dear friend who is a longtime member of the Laredo Police Force. And he agreed with me that surely the Laredo Police Force should have had something better to do than have a task force whose job was to go catch wayward nail salon people and wayward eyelash treatment. So it's just absolutely insane how their despotic tendencies tend to come out in all this.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that not just in Laredo. You know, when we look at what's happening with the BLM right now, it's not really, it's not even about that anymore. It's far from being about Mr. Floyd anymore. It's not about the BLM anymore. It's about total anarchy, taking out our police departments, taking out our border patrol. That's one of the things we need to really focus on, is that our police departments and our border patrol, all our officials that are in place there that have volunteered to put on a uniform to protect us, we need to be supporting them. You know, we need to be lifting up. We need to be utilizing them in a good, wholesome, solid way and supporting them to do the job they're called to do. Not chasing eyelash people and nail salon people, but getting out there, protecting our borders, protecting civilians from those who want anarchy. Praise God, it's not hitting here in Texas because we have leadership in places that's stepping up to that. But you know, if we don't stand up and do something, if we allow this blue wave to keep continuing, if we allow that blue wave to take more of the Austin, we're going to see it happening here. And that's the last thing I think any true Texan would want.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, I mean, George Floyd was from Texas. We had senior people at the Republican Party who went, and of course, the governor went and visited with his family. And that is a tragedy, and that's wrong. And the peaceable protest, absolutely, that's guaranteed in the same First Amendment that guarantees our religious liberties, and we are that is absolutely appropriate. But the rioting and the rest is just not. And
but he's become a footnote when he should have, like you say, his death was wrong. Yeah. But instead, I'm afraid he's going to become a footnote to the domestic terrorism that's sweeping across the nation. And I have a feeling he'll be forgotten in the long run because of all the other devastation that's been wrought.
Well, I certainly hope not. And I certainly hope that we'll be able to continue to use that, to continue to advance the criminal justice reform that we at the Republican Party have been fighting for a long time. I testified myself on bills on that last legislative session. So what is the best way for people to help you and get involved with your campaign?
Well, you can go to PomeroyForTexasSenate.com, sign up for our email, see what kind of events there are going on that you can come out and help, or maybe knock on doors where you're at, get some of the materials from us, be able to hand out the materials, things of that nature. And
that's all spelled out, PomeroyForTexasSenate.com.
Yep, PomeroyForTexasSenate.com.
Perfect.
And you'll find me on there, and you'll find our newsletter and where we're going to be, where we're going to be handing out signs. You can make donations if you'd like to make a donation to the campaign. And
Please do. Grassroots support for a long shot candidate is so important. And Pastor Pomeroy is a fantastic candidate who is working hard. But any time that you're up against a 33-year incumbent, by definition, it's automatically a tough race. And so, as Pastor does the hard work to spread our message and to bring in new people to the party in a district that we have not really fought for hard before or in far too long, please do donate. Pomeroy for TexasSenate.com.
I don't know how many candidates do this, but I'll also ask if you're a praying person, be praying and pray the Lord to put the right person in that position, whomever it is. Amen.
Amen.
And thank you for this opportunity to be able to share some of my platform and things we did.
I love these opportunities. I know personally how difficult it is to be a candidate, what an effort it is to step up, but I also know as chair of the party and personally, I know how incredibly important it is, especially in areas, it can be a little too easy by half sometimes to do it in an area where the Republican Party has significant leadership, but it is so important to do it in areas that have been traditionally Democrat. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. And Senate District 21, again, is where I'm running. There's 18 counties in this district. That's a large portion of the state. So if we really want to stymie the blue wave from coming in, this would be a great opportunity. Let's turn SD 21, which has been blue for 33 years. Let's turn it red and let's get it back to the conservative values that made Texas great.
That would be fantastic. Well, and we know it can be done. We flipped Senate District 19 in 2018. It had not been held by a Republican in 139 years since Reconstruction, and we can fix that, and we did it there. We can do it here, and with your help and with your hard work, with your help and donation, you absolutely can. Well, Pastor Pomeroy, take us out. Take us out strong. Give what's driving you to do this. One more time. Let people know in a short bit why you, why here, why now.
We need to get back to the values that has made Texas great, that made her the rising star economically, that we are a unabashedly pro-life institution. We need to get back to, some people joke about it, some say other things about it, but praise God, we still have our Second Amendment, and people know around the world that Texans are going to defend themselves against the oppressions that like to come in. So whether it be pro-life, whether it be our religious freedoms, whether it be our Second Amendment rights, we need to put people in office. And this is why I'm asking for your vote, to get someone in office that will stand strong on the conservative values that has always been there in the background of Texas. And I want to continue, therefore, to be there. And let's get out and just make Texas the adult back into this nation again. Amen.
Amen. God bless Texas. God bless you in your efforts. And thanks, everybody, for being with us today. Talk to you soon.
God bless.